All right, guys, what's going on? This is Ryan, aka Cantor and Clark with BlockRoots, and on behalf of my partner Josh Rager and I, we just want to thank you for supporting the BlockRoots YouTube channel. We appreciate all of our subscribers now that we are over 10,000. It's quite a milestone for us. We plan on continuously bringing value to the space, and we couldn't do it without you. So that being said, as with most of our videos, we're going to be giving away $100 in Bitcoin. So if you're new to the channel, make sure that you click the subscribe button. And as long as you are a subscriber, we ask that you not only like the video, but that you leave a comment. And if you leave a comment, you'll be automatically entered in to win $100 in Bitcoin. So we do this pretty much with every single video that we put out, and we appreciate every single comment that we get. It's not a contest, so there are no stipulations. You don't have to leave a paragraph. You could leave just a little bit of feedback, and you will be entered into the lottery to win $100 in Bitcoin. And if you're not familiar already, BlockRoots is more than just a YouTube channel. We have an extremely comprehensive online crypto trading and investing platform. So if you've ever wanted to learn a little bit more about the things that we touch on, if anything's ever gone over your head and you don't know where to start, I would suggest going to BlockRoots.com. We have hundreds of hours of educational roadmaps. When I talk about order flow and market profile, all of that stuff you can find in more detail here. So not only that, not only do we have hundreds of hours of videos worth of material, but we also have an incredible community. So here, all of our members are extremely active. Everyone is always trying to help each other. And on a daily basis, we put out market updates. So head over to blockroots.com, check us out. For a month of $49, you really can't beat it. All right, so today's video, we're going to talk about a really exciting piece of news, and we're going to do a little bit of analysis. So what we're going to talk about pertains to this post right here that I put up yesterday. I said, aside from a long put spread for June, and this should have read, which is acting more like a hedge right now, and intraday trades, Bitcoin looks like it has all the right signs for a run. So what are the right signs for a run? Well, before we get into this, let's just look at the pressure that we've seen from this institution. So in 2017, Goldman Sachs strikes bearish note amid Bitcoin's price highs. So this is in the summer of 2017. This was before the major blow off top. This is around $2,000–$3,000. And then we fast forward. There are many articles out there that I do not have right here to 2018. This is Bitcoin and Ether are both bubbles, says Goldman Sachs investment chief. So again, being referred to in a negative light. And then this is the last week. And this is for a phone call that is scheduled between Goldman Sachs and Goldman Sachs clients on May 27th, titled U.S. Economic Outlook, Implications of Current Policies for Inflation, Gold, and Bitcoin. So this is absolutely tremendous. And you could find this article on the block. You could find it on all crypto publications right now. This is on Forbes right here. Just as a heads up who Goldman Sachs is, they sit at the top of the totem pole in the financial universe. Their stock has maybe not been performing so well over the last few years, but they are a massive, massive institution providing investment banking, asset management, and almost all forms of financial services to the highest net worth individuals in the world. Okay, they're ran by none other than David Solomon. And if you know who David Solomon is, you might be confused depending on what time of the day you see him. So if you see him during business hours, of course you'll see him in a suit and tie. He's the CEO of Goldman Sachs. But what you might not know is that he moonlights doing his passion, which is being a DJ. So this is the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company that loves to DJ. I think that that's one of the most incredible things. So if there was someone to be running this company, when they were to make a switch, it would be sort of this progressive player within the space that is, you know, sort of Bruce Wayne by day, Batman by night, right? So they're going to be hosting a Goldman Sachs call, rather, they're going to be hosting a client call about Bitcoin on March 27th. And again, this is titled The Implications of Current Policies for Inflation, Gold, and Bitcoin. The most important thing, I think, you know, we have all in the crypto space long considered that Bitcoin held a really important place in any traditional portfolio. Now, obviously, we might disagree on the weighting of that portfolio, rather the weighting of that particular individual allocation. But the fact is clear that we've all had that opinion. But of course, we are going to, right? We are in this space. We're in this sort of echo chamber at times. we are going to be having that as sort of this default bias. What we were always hoping was that players in the traditional space held this view to a certain degree as well. All right, we needed some type of validation. Now, we did have, and we do have, institutions within this space. You've always heard the phrase or the sentence, the institutions are coming, but they've been here. They've been here in the form of high frequency trading groups, hedge funds. The institutions that we want are that sort of old money, long only institutions, those pension funds, the asset managers that are not going to be fast money, sort of looking to take advantage of shorting the top, but we're looking for them to really pick up supply, to take a long-term investment allocation in Bitcoin. So the fact that Bitcoin is now being printed in the same sentence as two key things, inflation and gold, in this environment, in this macro environment, being acknowledged as having an important place in that sentence, or rather being in that sentence and having an important place in a portfolio, or rather even worth considering and having a conversation about, I think that this is tremendous, right? All we need to do is for Bitcoin to continuously pop up in conversation. And, originally this conversation might have taken place at a cocktail party, but now this conversation is taking place on client calls, right? So this is how things start. And the thing with crypto is that everyone has kind of this skewed perception of time horizons. We all expect fast gains, but in the traditional environment, it's a 10-year long game, right? It's 10-year plus. So the thing is that now we're seeing there's becoming less career risk. Up until now, we haven't really had any positive news with Goldman Sachs and Bitcoin in the same sentence. It's been pretty much that Goldman Sachs has been negative on Bitcoin or doubted Bitcoin for the last few years. There have been individuals within Goldman Sachs. There was an analyst a while back who was bullish back in 2019, but he actually was bullish at the top, which is quite comical when you think about it. So Goldman Sachs is now hosting what sounds like a serious phone call talking about Bitcoin and its role in this larger macro environment. So I think that we're seeing a trend. I think that we're seeing a trend where these larger players within the traditional space are now becoming more open to recognizing Bitcoin's role and actually acknowledging that it does have a role. Now, again, like I said, we can all come up with our own opinion for how much Bitcoin is important to hold, right? Is it 1% of your portfolio? Is it 10% of your portfolio? But it started with, we saw Rentec, Medallion Fund, James Simon's fund, which is a higher frequency trading fund. Obviously, this is not maybe meaningful for long-term holders, but we saw them get involved on the CME as of the last 2 months. We saw the Paul Tudor Jones news. So for those of you who are not from Jones, I don't know how you couldn't be if you're a trader, because the guy is an absolute legend. This is on trendfollowing.com. I think that this is a good article if you just need an introduction to the guy. This is between him and Tony Robbins. And Paul Tudor Jones is not only a world-class trader, he is a trend follower. So I think that this is one of the most meaningful things. Paul Tudor Jones said that owning Bitcoin is a great way to defend oneself against the great monetary inflation, given the current fact set. Okay, so he talks about picking the right horses in the race, and he said that if he was to pick one, that it is Bitcoin, right? So I think that this is extremely meaningful. This is not someone who's fast money, who's getting in and out, all right? We've heard many for that, traditional people are just coming into the space to short Bitcoin. I don't think so. I think that in this context, in this current macro environment with a very obvious looming inflationary environment, we could expect that Bitcoin and gold being in the same sentence, that should speak volumes. So we have these traditional players within the space that are now essentially, for everyone who gets involved early, they'll likely be rewarded, and what they are doing is removing that career risk for the next person to get involved. Okay, so up until this time, you might have heard someone such as Anthony Pompliano talk about traditional players needing to get off zero. Okay, but there was a lot of fear around that, because the last thing you want to do is be an asset manager in legacy markets in the traditional space and be the first person to step off zero and have an allocation to Bitcoin and then look like a complete fool if Bitcoin was to go on and perform negatively from that point. Okay, so we have a lot of great things that are stirring up in the traditional space merging the traditional space with crypto. And I don't think that it's, rather it's not that there are positive things. It's the fact that this environment is not looking to be that positive. And if anything, a storm is approaching. And we have these players that are saying and recognizing that Bitcoin has a role in this type of environment. And if you read the white paper, this is sort of is Bitcoin's, destiny, right? So this is all pretty incredible. And I'm really excited to hear what actually takes place on this phone call. And I'm sure we'll hear a lot about it after May 20th. And since I've mentioned gold numerous times in the last few minutes, be sure to check out our partners at Phemex.trade. So yes, we work directly with the team, and they offer gold contracts up to 100 times leverage. And not only do they offer Bitcoin and crypto derivatives as well as gold, but they now also offer spot crypto with 0 fees. So all you have to do is pay a very small subscription fee. It breaks down to less than 2 cups of coffee a month, and you could trade their spot crypto assets with 0 fees. So if trading wasn't difficult enough, being able to get rid of fees is an absolute breath of fresh air, right? So be sure to check out Phemex.trade. They are the fastest crypto asset platform I have ever traded on, and I absolutely would not get behind them if I did not believe in them 100%. And that goes for Josh as well. So just getting back to this post, as I said, the real catalyst is the ceiling that we have yet to break right here for the last year, in addition to these developments. So these developments are incredible, right? The fact that we're in the same sentence as inflation and gold, and just to put things in perspective, these are gold futures, and this is Bitcoin in its entirety. So this is all incredible that Goldman Sachs is hosting a call with clients, and we are in this type of environment, and we have said for a long time that Bitcoin has a place in the traditional portfolio next to gold, that it is digital gold. That's incredible, but the most important thing to understand is that the most attractive feature of Bitcoin is the fact that it appreciates in price, right? It is the fact that it can appreciate in price in the way that it does, and that it is and has remained for the most part uncorrelated to traditional assets. So that brings us to where we currently are, right? I said the real catalyst is the ceiling that we have yet to break. So that is this sort of 10,300 to 10,500 level that has been our ceiling for over the last year. So we're on a weekly chart right now, and if you're a participant in the traditional markets and you trade equities and you're a long-term investor or position trader, your minimum chart might be a 3-day chart. On the high time frame, we get a complete story. So anyone who's taking this market seriously right now or thinking about it, they're not looking at the 5-minute or the 30-minute chart unless there's some type of higher frequency fast money trader. Looking at the weekly chart, we get a more clear idea of what the story is. And the story is that we have been unable to change the trend for the last year. So this is where major participation comes into the market. This is where a major will take place. So looking at this on the weekly and on the monthly, we have our levels. And these levels are right now our ceiling. Until we break above 10,200, the trend hasn't changed, right? So these stories are great, but until we get some type of weekly close above 10,200, right? It's the same story over and over again. We put in a high, put in a slightly higher high here, but we've been unable to, for the most part, put any kind of drastic change to this market structure. And when this market structure changes and it's solidified for everyone to see, it will become something that you just can't deny, right? The fact that Bitcoin is beginning to make a higher high or potentially a higher low, that will be reason to start paying attention to the chart even more. And that's when we can expect sort of that herding behavior to come in when we begin to overtake a major previous level. And I call them participation zones and areas where a ton of participation comes into the market, because these are areas where, regardless of whether or not you're a 5-minute time frame trader or a weekly swing trader or a monthly position trader, this is somewhere where everyone can get involved, right? The trend changes on the high time frame. That's how this begins. It doesn't begin on the 5-minute chart. This Goldman Sachs news is incredible, but we need to see that this weekly chart and this monthly chart has been changed to the upside. So that's that, guys. Kept it short, but hopefully it has been informative. As always, exercise proper risk management and trade effectively.